Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're the place you come to when you want to wade through, well, just stacks of source material articles, weird notes, internal documents, and get right down to the essentials. The truly strange stuff.
And today, we are definitely diving into the strange. We're looking at Pine Cove, this usually quiet, almost fog-bound coastal town.
Right, a place defined by its quietness, especially in September. That's the reward month, after all the summer tourists finally clear out, they crave this sameness.
Exactly. But this particular September, that sameness just shattered completely. It became ground zero for something the locals just call the syndrome.
It's an incredible story, isn't it? When you trace it back, we're talking pharmacology, a criminal conspiracy that's been hidden for decades, this huge ecological event.
Well, yeah, and a massive, bizarre creature attack on top of it all. The sources we've got, they force you to connect these completely disparate dots, things like, chemical imbalances in the brain with police corruption, a huge illegal drug operation, and then this colossal sea beast suddenly appearing. A beast that seems almost impossibly evolved to prey on human sadness.
That's exactly what we want to unpack for you today. We're trying to make sense of this sheer complexity, this chaos. We need to figure out the hidden mechanism, the thing that triggered a town-wide sexual frenzy.
And define this terrifying idea of an elegant predator.
Oh, yeah.
We've got everything here. Police reports, psych notes, biologist field logs. It's a wild mix.
Pine Cove, like you said, it thrives on resisting change. The sources really emphasize this collective sigh of relief when the tourists leave.
Oh, absolutely. It's palpable in the descriptions.
It's the anti-event town. People move there to get away from things happening. You see these little rituals starting up in September. Constable Theo Crowe, he's the local lawman, carefully tending his little pot garden in the fog.
Sounds familiar, yeah. Getting ready for the winter storms, the ones that always knock down those shallow-rooted pines.
And Mavis Sand, down at the head of the Slug Saloon, she's putting the expensive liquor away, settling in for months of just the locals. It's all about routine, quiet celebration.
And that quiet, that cherished routine, it wasn't broken by one big thing. It was three sort of seemingly small, unrelated omens, all hitting at the exact same time.
Okay, let's lay those out. The 3 points where the normal just fractured. The first one, 40 miles south. An industrial thing.
Right. That's the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant. A tiny cooling pipe sprang a leak. Now, sources are clear. This was incredibly minor, negligible, really, in terms of, environmental disaster scale.
Right.
But it released this very specific plume of radioactive material, just enough, and the ocean current carried it right towards Pine Cove's waters. It acted like a signal, a scent beacon now floating out there.
Wow. Okay, omen number 2. This one sounds more emotional.
And financial.
That's Mavis Sand again. She's watching her bar empty out. Her best customers, the miserable ones, aren't showing up as much. So she puts an ad in the paper.
To actively import sadness. She advertised for a blues singer. She literally needed misery to boost her drink sales.
That is bleakly pragmatic. Okay, and the third omen, the one that really forced the authorities to get involved.
The apparent suicide of a local woman, Bess Leander. So you have these three things. The radioactive scent drifting in, Mavis actively calling for sadness, and this sudden, shocking death. That's the volatile mix, the perfect conditions for the syndrome to erupt.
And to really get what happened next, we have to start with that death scene and the guy who had to investigate it.
Okay, so we're at the Leander home. The scene described in the police reports, it's immediately, jarring, because it's so unnervingly perfect. Bess Leander is found hanging from a peg.
Right, wearing this very specific cornflower blue dress, and everything around her is just spotless, meticulously clean. The style gets mentioned over and over again. Country cute.
Yeah, the source really lingers on that aesthetic. Lavender sachets everywhere, dried herbs arranged just so, shaker chairs hung neatly on wall pegs. And there's this notable lack of any sort of masculine presence.
Yeah.
No clutter.
It paints a picture of someone obsessed with control, right? This almost pathological need for order.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which clashes so dramatically with the violent chaos of a suicide. It immediately feels off.
And making it even more absurd is the reaction, or maybe the lack of reaction, from Pine Cove's actual law enforcement. Constable Theo Crowe shows up. A little bit stoned, actually.
Yeah, he just had his morning walk through his cannabis patch, and he finds the EMTs already there, Vance and Mike.
And what are they doing? Documenting? Securing the scene?
Nope. They're deep in this really morbid, but also kind of academic debate. Vance sees this old wooden butter churn in the kitchen and declares Bess must have been Amish.
Amish, based on a butter churn.
Mike immediately shoots him down, points to her husband's jacket hanging nearby, notes the modern zipper, and says with total certainty, she's Mennonite, Amish with blenders.
Oh my God. That perfectly sums up Theo Crowe's world, doesn't it? The so-called professionals are arguing about religious sects instead of, like, evidence.
It really does. And Theo, remember, he's the only constable. He's explicitly described as someone who actively tries to avoid doing real police work.
Right. He's elected, sees it as a quiet retirement gig. The sources say he has an artist's soul but zero marketable talent, so he just settled for being the town constable.
Yeah, his biggest worry up until this moment was literally whether the seagulls could spot his marijuana plants from the air.
And his complacency, his ability to just coast along, it's basically underwritten by corruption, isn't it? His quiet life is kind of protected by Sheriff Burton.
Oh, absolutely. Burton's the county sheriff, hardline guy, arch-conservative, looks like he chews nails for breakfast.
And he's got something on Theo.
He does. Theo's Achilles' heel, his pot habit. Specifically, this expensive little gadget he uses, a smokeless pipe called Sneaky Pete. Burton knows about it. Pretty much. Burton uses it as leverage. He keeps his county deputies completely out of Pine Cove, giving Theo this kind of weirdly autonomous North Coast jurisdiction. The price. Theo has to maintain total radio silence about anything sensitive and, crucially, keep Burton's own little secret safe.
What secret is that?
We'll get to that. But basically, it keeps the county cops away from a very large, very profitable, very illegal operation Burton's running nearby.
So Theo's always looking over his shoulder, terrified of Burton, who he thinks of as his junior high vice principal. And now this apparent suicide lands right in his lap, forcing him to actually do something.
Right. He clumsily interviews the husband, Joseph Leander, and gets the first very misleading piece of information.
What does the husband say?
Joseph confirms Bess was seeing Dr. Valerie Riordan. Said she had depression, maybe some OCD, was taking Zoloft, an antidepressant. But Joseph claims she seemed to be getting better.
Okay. And Theo, what does he do?
Theo panics. He's desperate to keep the county out, to control the story. So he does something incredibly stupid. He goes into the medicine cabinet, finds the half-full bottle of Zoloft, and pockets it.
He removes evidence from a potential crime scene. Why on earth would he do that? If he thinks the pills are involved, shouldn't they be logged, tested?
You'd think so. But Theo's not thinking like a cop. He's thinking about self-preservation. He sees that Zoloft bottle as a massive complication, a thread that could unravel everything, lead to a full county investigation, which would definitely expose his own drug use, his deal with Burton. His whole life would be ruined.
So he thinks remove the pills, make it look like a straightforward suicide, keep Burton happy, keep his job.
Exactly. It's pure panic and paranoia about Burton. He thinks he's simplifying things, but he's actually just contaminated the scene and obstructed justice.
But his little plan to just sweep it under the rug blows up almost immediately, right?
Yeah.
Because Detective Sergeant Voss shows up.
Oh, yeah. Voss is the real deal. Burton couldn't keep him out entirely. And Voss is the complete opposite of Theo. He takes one look at that unnervingly tidy scene, the hanging body, the whole country cute vibe, and just scoffs.
What does he say?
His immediate reaction is, she cleaned the house, then hung herself, please. He smells staging right away. He suspects murder.
So now you've got total conflict. Voss thinks it's homicide. Theo is trying to cover up a potential pill connection to avoid Burton. And Burton just wants everyone to shut up and stay away from his real business.
Precisely. Voss basically puts Theo on probation, tells him in no uncertain terms not to talk to anyone else, recognizing Theo for what he is. A professional in dicking around in law enforcement, as the source puts it. The whole investigation is fractured from the start.
Okay, so while the actual police work, like it is, starts to pick at the fake suicide, there's this whole other kind of chaos brewing downtown.
And that leads us straight to Mavis Sand, proprietor of the Head of the Slug Saloon. Mavis is having, well, an existential crisis, but it's mainly financial.
Business is slow.
Drying up. Because her customers are just too damn happy. Or maybe just not miserable enough.
She's like the town's emotional economic barometer, and she actually blames specific things for this uptick in contentment.
She does. She blames the booming economy, Val Riordan, and vegetables in the diet.
Vegetables? Seriously?
Seriously. Basically, people have stable lives. Dr. Riordan's got them medicated for their blues, and maybe they're eating healthier. All of it is killing her profit model. The folks who used to drown their sorrows, they're just too level, too chemically managed maybe, to be reliable drunks anymore.
So Mavis comes up with a plan. Pure capitalist logic.
If the town won't supply the sadness, she'll import it.
Yeah.
Hence the ad for a blues singer.
And this leads to the arrival of Catfish Jefferson. The descriptions of this guy are just incredible. He sounds like a character out of myth.
He really does. He shows up looking like a walking paradox. He's old, maybe nearly blind, that the source notes. He misses the glass by 4 inches when Mavis pours him a welcome drink. He's wearing these creaky old wingtip shoes, a raggedy black wool suit, but underneath that, this incredibly loud Hawaiian shirt covered in topless hula dancers. And sunglasses, always the sunglasses. And he's carrying this beautiful, gleaming National Steel body guitar.
Wow. And Mavis asks him about his experience, right?
She does. And his answer is just legendary. He lets out this incredible sound, this deep, chugging laugh. The source describes it like a steam engine leaving a tunnel. And then he just says, he's got more experience than a busload of hoes.
Okay. I guess that settles the experience question. Mavis must have been impressed.
She hired him on the spot. Okay. Apparently, that's a key performance indicator for blues singers she recognizes.
So Mavis gets her imported misery, and the moment Catfish starts playing, it's not just music, is it? It seems to have this immediate, almost physical effect.
It's profound. It's described as chemically, sensorily transformative. He starts playing that steel guitar, rocking back and forth, and Mavis, who hasn't been able to smell a thing for 15 years probably, the source suggests, due to her own low-grade unmedicated depression.
Yeah. What happens?
She suddenly smells something. Mildew, moss maybe, or deep water, she thinks. Catfish just lauds and says, the Delta. His music is literally dredging up dormant senses, repressed stuff.
Wow. And it affects the others too, the regulars.
Yeah, the daytime guys who are described as basically pathological liars, they just stop lying for a second. It's like the blues, the pure, unadulterated sadness of it, cuts straight through the town's chemical fog, the emotional numbness.
Okay, so Catfish is turning up the emotional volume, bringing genuine feeling back into the room.
Exactly, which is critical because this is happening just as Dr. Val Riordan is about to pull the plug on the town's chemical management system entirely. You've got raw emotion meeting raw withdrawal. The stage is absolutely set for an explosion.
Let's turn to her then, Dr. Val Riordan. She's just learned about Bess Leander's death, and Theo implicated her, in a way, by mentioning the Zoloft. How's she handling it?
She is absolutely reeling. Theo dropping off that Zoloft prescription, even though he took the bottle, directly connects her practice to this death. She's trying to rationalize it, using statistics, 15% of depressives commit suicide, that kind of thing.
Cold comfort, I imagine.
Totally. Because she knows Bess was her patient. Even if she only saw her that one time for like 30 minutes, it hit her hard.
And her background, her reasons for becoming a psychiatrist in the first place kind of feeds into this crisis, right?
Oh, completely. She specifically chose psychiatry to avoid the messy parts of medicine. Her father was a surgeon, apparently, and she hated the gore, the physical unpredictability of it all.
So she preferred cleaner environments.
Yeah, like fancy rehab centers, places where she could hand out meds, maybe force-feed minestrone to underweight supermodels, as the source rather cynically puts it, control.
But her motive for setting up shop in Pine Cove wasn't purely altruistic.
Not at all. It was largely materialistic. She needed money. Specifically, she needed nice things. The right house, the right car, partly to deal with alimony payments to her ex-husband, who's described as this ruthless country lawyer type, a lobbyist.
So her practice was pretty transactional. Pills for problems, checks for pills?
Largely, yes. A pill for every problem approach. But Bess Leander's death throws that into sharp conflict with her actual medical oath. She literally asks herself, holy secrets or do no harm.
And she worries her current approach, just prescribing away, might lead to more deaths, more suicides among her, 1,500 patients?
Exactly. She starts thinking about that 15% statistic again, but now it terrifies her. What if she's responsible for more? So she panics.
And her reaction isn't exactly standard medical procedure.
No, it's more like a desperate, drastic act of atonement.
Yeah.
She decides, basically overnight, that to do no harm, to prevent any more potential SSRI-linked suicides, she has to stop the antidepressants immediately for everyone.
Wait, all 1,500 patients at once? What does she replace them with?
Sugar pills, placebos. She arranges with the local pharmacy, Winston Krause, we'll hear more about him later, to swap out the active medications for placebos in the next refill cycle for Zoloft, Paxil, Wellbutrin, the main one she prescribes.
Hold on. That sounds incredibly dangerous and definitely illegal, right? Just swapping out vital medication for sugar pills without telling anyone. Did the sources talk about the massive liability here?
They absolutely acknowledge how catastrophic this decision is, But Val isn't thinking about liability at this point. She's caught in this bubble of moral panic and self-justification. She genuinely believes she's saving lives.
Her argument is if she can save even one person from becoming part of that 15% statistic, it's worth the short-term inconvenience of withdrawal.
That's her rationalization, yes. But she completely, utterly miscalculates the speed and the severity of that withdrawal and the type of withdrawal symptom that manifests.
Okay, let's talk about that timeline, because the chaos hits fast.
Right.
Why so quickly?
It's all about the half-life of these specific drugs. See, something like Prozac, fluoxetine, has a really long half-life. It takes weeks to clear your system. So withdrawal is usually slower, maybe less intense.
But the ones Val used most, Zoloft, Paxil, Wellbutrin.
Much shorter half-lives. They can flush out of your system in just a day or two.
Well.
Bang. Gone.
And normally, what would you expect from that kind of rapid withdrawal?
Usually things like a low-grade flu feeling, maybe some dizziness, brain fog, disorientation, and then often a rebound of the original depression, feeling worse than before.
Okay, but there's another potential side effect, isn't there? Something to do with libido?
Right, and this is key. In some people, the standard estimate is maybe 5 to 15% stopping an SSRI can cause this temporary but really intense spike in sexual desire. Libido goes through the roof. Val expected maybe a few cases like this.
Just a few. What actually happened?
She was catastrophically wrong. The sexual frenzy that rips through Pine Cove hits 100% of her 1,500 patients who are on those specific drugs. 100%. The entire town, chemically speaking, becomes what she later thinks of as a kennel for hopeless horn dogs.
100% reaction rate. That's insane. Can you give us some examples from the sources?
Oh, the anecdotes are vivid.
Yeah.
There's Chloe. She comes into Val's office, totally bewildered, confessing she'd spent 16 hours straight, basically from 2 a.m. onwards, right when the drugs would be wearing off, just masturbating, intermittently, but for 16 hours.
16 hours. And didn't she have a weird dream, too?
Incredibly weird and disturbingly prophetic. She dreamed she was having sex with and achieving orgasm from a huge silver tank truck.
Wow, okay, that's something. Anyone else?
Then there are the Luters, Martin and Elizabeth Luter, an elderly couple in their 70s. They come in utterly mortified and spend half an hour giving Val this graphic play-by-play account of all the explicit perversions they'd indulged in the night before, things they hadn't even thought about in decades. They were shocked at themselves, but chemically, they just couldn't stop.
So the withdrawal isn't just making them depressed again, it's overriding everything with this uncontrollable horniness.
Exactly. And the ultimate confirmation for Val, the ultimate horror. She realizes as she's listening to these intensely graphic confessions from her patients that she's getting physically turned on herself.
Wait, the doctor is?
Yeah. She had to excuse herself and change her underwear 4 times that day. Her professional detachment completely collapses. She's experiencing the exact same withdrawal symptoms as her patients. It proves the 100% reaction rate.
So her big act of moral atonement, her attempt to do no harm,
has unleashed this massive wave of social disruption, this uncontrollable sexual chaos. And worse, without realizing it, she's chemically primed almost the entire susceptible population of Pine Cove to become incredibly vulnerable to some kind of external force. This hypersexualized, low serotonin state is the new baseline.
Okay, so the town is chemically primed for something. Chaos is brewing. Let's bring in the next piece of the puzzle. The biologist, Gabe Fenton. He studies rats, right?
Yeah, specifically, he tracks microchipped rats using satellites. He monitors their movements across this 10-square-mile area right near Pine Cove.
And he notices something unusual around the same time the drugs are wearing off.
Extremely unusual. At precisely 2:00 a.m., the exact time Chloe started her marathon session, and when those SSRIs would have fully flushed out, Gabe sees this incredible anomaly on his monitors. Almost every single one of his tracked rats, hundreds of them, suddenly starts running.
Running where?
Full tilt, the source says. Running eastward, directly away from the coast, way outside their normal territory, just sprinting, flat out, like they were terrified of something coming from the sea.
A mass exodus, driven by fear. But not all of them ran.
That's the crucial part. 10 of his microchipped rats did not run. They stayed put. Gabe went out later to investigate. He found 6 of them, still alive.
Hiding. Or dead from fear.
Neither. They were engaged in frantic, excessive sexual activity, just going at it. The source notes it pretty grimly. It wasn't death that stopped them, it was sex.
Wow. And the other 4, the ones he didn't find?
They disappeared. Their last signals came from near Molly Nuchon's trailer. Remember that name, it becomes important.
Okay, so this split behavior is bizarre. Terrorized flight for the majority, but hypersexual paralysis for a small group. This has to connect to Val's patients, right? But first, the thing they were running from, the sea beast, Steve.
Right. The creature itself arrives. Initially, the sources suggest, it was drawn towards Pine Cove by that faint radioactive scent from the Diablo Canyon leak. That whisper of radiation carried on the current for 40 miles.
Like a beacon.
Exactly. But the leak was small, and it got fixed quickly. So the radioactive scent faded. But then the creature's senses locked onto something else. Something stronger coming from the shore.
Not radiation this time. What did it sense?
This is chilling. It sensed, according to the analysis, the listless resolve of prey that has given up. Depression. That collective low serotonin fog hanging over Pine Cove, that became the new beacon.
So it was drawn to the town's sadness, and then what happens? It just strolls ashore.
Not quite. It's been out of the water for 50 years, apparently. It makes a mistake, a big one. It sees a shiny silver Texaco fuel truck parked at the local gas station.
Oh no, don't tell me.
Yep. It mistakes the gleaming tanker truck for a massive female of its own species.
It thought the gas truck was attractive.
Apparently so. The source dryly notes the creature tried to communicate its intentions, signaling to its vanished lover that a simple no would have sufficed. But tanker trucks aren't known for clear communication or consent.
And then, boom.
Big boom. The creature attacks the truck, the whole thing explodes, gas station, the adjacent Bert's Burger stand, everything. The blast throws the creature itself 200 feet. It lands on the wreckage of Bert's, stunned, and then sort of lumbers off into a nearby creek bed to recover. A truly spectacular, if accidental, entrance.
Just absolute chaos. And amidst this explosion and confusion, someone recognizes the creature, right?
Catfish Jefferson, the blues singer. When he hears that roar, that specific sound the creature makes, it triggers this deep 50-year-old trauma.
What happened 50 years ago?
He tells Estelle Boyer, the local artist he's staying with. Back in the Mississippi Delta, he and his fishing partner, Smiley, were trying to haul in what they thought was a record-breaking catfish.
A giant.
But it wasn't a catfish. It was the creature. And it ate Smiley. Right there in the boat, Catfish realizes, in that moment by the burning gas station, that the monster from his past, the source of his deepest blues, is here, now, in Pine Cove. It connects everything for him.
Okay, so the pieces are starting to fall into place. We've got the town-wide low serotonin, the depression signal. We've got the rats fleeing in terror or paralyzed by sex. And we've got the creature, drawn by the sadness, arriving with explosive force, and Catfish confirming it's not new. This is where Gabe, the biologist, and Val, the psychiatrist, start to put it all together, right? The core theory.
Exactly. Amidst all this chaos, they connect their findings. Gabe analyzes those weird, sexually preoccupied rats he found. Confirms. They had incredibly low serotonin levels. They were biologically depressed, but responding with hypersexuality instead of fear.
And Val confirms the human side.
Right. Low serotonin in humans is clinical depression. And SSRIs, the drugs she stopped, work by preventing the brain from reabsorbing serotonin too quickly. They're selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. They keep more serotonin active.
So when she pulled the plug, everyone's serotonin levels plummeted, hence the depression signal the creature picked up. But why the universal horniness? Why didn't they all just become catatonic?
This is the mind-bending part, the evolutionary link theory they come up with. They start thinking, maybe depression isn't just a malfunction. Maybe it's a specific biological vulnerability, like, say, bad eyesight, that evolution would normally select against.
Okay, so why does it persist?
Here's the twist. Low serotonin, while causing lethargy and sadness, also seems to trigger a temporary spike in libido in many organisms. The theory is, it's a last-ditch evolutionary mechanism. The organism is depressed, listless, maybe heading towards giving up. But evolution desperately needs it to reproduce first, pass on its genes, including the depression gene, before it succumbs. So you get this temporary frantic urge to mate.
Wow, that is a profoundly disturbing idea. Depression as a driver for frantic, last-chance procreation.
It reframes everything.
Yeah.
And it leads directly to their terrifying conclusion about the sea beast. They call it the elegant predator.
Elegant. How is a giant truck-molesting sea monster elegant?
Elegant in its predatory mechanism. They theorize the creature has evolved a highly specialized way. Maybe it emits a pheromone, maybe some kind of low-frequency sound. They don't know for sure. But something that specifically targets creatures with low serotonin.
It targets the depressed.
Yes. It's drawn to their melancholy signal. But then, its mechanism also triggers that temporary hypersexuality, that frantic libido spike associated with low serotonin.
Why? What does triggering their horniness achieve for the predator?
It gathers them. Instead of scattering in fear like the healthy rats, the low serotonin individuals become preoccupied, maybe even drawn toward the source of the signal in a state of sexual fixation. It makes them easy prey, willing prey, almost. They deliver themselves.
So Val's attempt at atonement, pulling the pills, didn't just cause a sexual frenzy. It literally turned 1,500 people into chemically engineered beacons, broadcasting depressed and available, attracting the specialized predator, and then making them too horny and listless to run away.
Precisely. It's biological horror on a whole new level. The very mechanism causing the town's bizarre behavior is the exact vulnerability the predator evolved over millennia to exploit.
Unbelievable. Okay, we need to get back to Theo Crowe. He's the one who has to deal with the human monster in all this, the criminal conspiracy lurking underneath.
Right, so Theo has been off his sneaky Pete pipe for about 3 days now.
Yeah.
He's coming out of the fog, experiencing this like nauseating clarity, sobriety, and freedom in a way.
Freedom, how so?
He realizes his addiction, his pot use, wasn't just a personal failing. It was the chain Sheriff Burton used to control him. He decides he's done being controlled.
So what does he do? Does he have any leverage left?
He has one last stash of his really high-grade sensimilla, his personal reserve, and he knows exactly who wants it.
Who, Burton?
No, someone inside Burton's operation, the Spider. That's the nickname for Nailsworth, the information officer down at the Cangiar's department. Apparently, Nailsworth is a connoisseur of fine cannabis.
So Theo trades his last good stash for information.
Exactly. A baggie for a file. He gets the Spider to leak him the official, previously buried autopsy report for Bess Leander.
And the report confirms Voss's suspicions and Theo's gut feeling about the husband.
Completely. The autopsy shows Bess didn't die from hanging. The cause of death was cardiac arrest. And crucially, those ligature marks on her neck. They were put there after she was already dead. Post-mortem.
So it was staged.
Absolutely. And the final nail. 0 Zoloft in her system when she died. Joseph Leander lied about everything. He must have killed her. Maybe the shock of a struggle, or maybe the withdrawal itself triggered the heart attack. The source speculates, and then he faked the suicide scene to cover it up.
So the town's first big catastrophe wasn't suicide, wasn't pills, it was just plain old murder.
Yep, and this realization solidifies Theo's transformation. He goes back to his hidden garden, pours kerosene all over his remaining marijuana plants, and sets them on fire.
Wow, a symbolic gesture.
Totally. He thinks, throw off the chains of your oppressors. He fully gets it. Now his addiction was just a tool for Burton's corruption. He's free, and now he's actually motivated. Maybe not well-equipped, but motivated.
So he confronts the husband, Joseph Leander.
He does. And Leander cracks almost immediately. Admits he helped Bess make a decision she was waffling about. A chilling euphemism for murder. But then he pulls a gun on Theo.
Of course he does. And does he reveal Burton's big secret? The reason for the cover-up?
He spills everything. Turns out Leander wasn't just a grieving husband or a murderer. He was Burton's main drug mule. And Burton's little secret. A massive methamphetamine lab. Huge operation.
A meth lab? Where?
Hidden out on Jim Beer's ranch. Yeah, right there, near Pine Cove. That's why Burton needed total control, why he kept the deputies out, why he kept Theo on a leash. The meth operation was huge, hugely profitable, and Burton was protecting it.
And Jim Beer's ranch. That's near where the creature ended up, and where those pilgrims are heading.
Exactly. It's all converging on the same spot. The crime, the creature, the chemically compelled victims.
Okay, while Theo is uncovering the human conspiracy, the creature, Steve, is having its own experience. A transformation involving Molly Michon.
Yes, Molly. The former B-movie scream queen, who's now fully embracing this warrior babe of the outland persona she practices. She's found Steve.
Found him? Where?
Remember the explosion threw him into the creek bed? Apparently he sort of reformed or shapeshifted. He's now disguised himself as a dilapidated, soot-covered trailer near Molly's place, hiding in plain sight.
He shapeshifted into a trailer.
Okay.
And Molly figures this out.
She does. And their relationship becomes, well, unique doesn't even begin to cover it. Molly, maybe because her own low serotonin is driving both her libido and this weird desire for extreme sensory input, she finds a way to connect with Steve intimately.
How? Please don't say the trailer has functional hookups.
No. It involves a gas-powered weed whacker.
A weed whacker? Seriously, what does she do with it?
The source calls it the little death. Apparently, she uses the vibrations, the sound, something about it, to bring Steve to a state of pleasure. Peace. And somehow, through this shared, bizarre, intense sensory experience, Molly connects with him, joins him in this altered state.
Okay, that is officially the weirdest thing yet. And this repeated, weed whacker intimacy. It actually changes Steve.
Profoundly. This is where the creature evolves. Steve, who apparently existed in this timeless, eternal now before meeting Molly, starts to acquire memory, consciousness. Through this connection with her, he learns about later and before.
He learns about time. For a creature outside of time, that must be staggering.
And painful. He now understands loneliness,
Right.
loss. He's essentially downloading the human condition or parts of it directly from Molly's psyche, just as his predatory nature is drawing other humans, afflicted by their chemically induced condition, towards him.
The pilgrims of lust. The townsfolk drawn by the low serotonin signal. Where are they going?
They're heading towards Steve's location, which happens to be a cave system on Jim Beer's ranch, the meth ranch.
Of course it is, and they're going willingly.
Completely. They're in this trance-like state. The source describes the local prayer ladies, Marge and Katie, among them. They think they've been called by the Holy Spirit. They're stripping off their clothes as they walk, believing they're preparing for some kind of holy sacrifice.
Sacrifice to Steve, who they think is God.
Or some powerful entity, yeah. It's the horrifying perfection of the elegant predator mechanism. The low serotonin signal doesn't just attract them, it makes them want to be consumed. They walk right into the predator's den.
Okay, so the stage is set for the climax. Everyone's heading to the cave on the meth ranch. Theo pursuing Leander and Burton. Burton and his SWAT team trying to clean up their mess. Molly connecting with Steve. And the pilgrims arriving to eat.
Total convergence. Burton and his team corner Theo and Molly inside the cave. Guns are drawn. Looks like it's about to be a bloodbath.
But then Catfish Jefferson arrives.
He does. Mavis Sand, realizing things are escalating wildly, drove him and Estelle out there. And she brought equipment, a massive Marshall amplifier stack.
An amp? How did they power it out there?
Mavis rigged up this crude but brilliant device, a black box converter, plugged into her car's cigarette lighter, somehow powering this huge rock and roll amplifier.
Incredible. And Catfish.
He plugs in his electric guitar, a Stratocaster this time, not the steel body, cranks the Marshall to 11 and just lets loose. The most unholy, screaming, feedback-drenched electric blues imaginable. Sheer sonic agony.
And this affects Steve.
It's his kryptonite. This specific type of loud, electric, distorted sound, it's the enemy sound. The exact frequency or type of noise that traumatized him 50 years ago in the Delta when Catfish and Smiley hooked him. It drives him insane with rage and pain.
So he comes out of the cave.
Roaring, storms out, completely enraged by the noise, literally throwing the naked, clinging pilgrims off his back as he charges towards the source of the sound.
Chaos. And someone actually makes a deliberate sacrifice.
Winston Krause, the pharmacist, the one who helped Zal with the placebos, and who apparently had a history involving dolphins. Anyway, he's there, caught up in the frenzy, experiencing the ultimate sexual thrill from the sheer danger and chaos.
And he sees his chance.
For the ultimate climax, yeah. He grabs the screaming electric guitar from Catfish, runs down towards the ocean surf, and deliberately makes himself bait. He wants to get close to the monster, feel that ultimate rush.
Does Steve take the bait?
Oh, yeah. Steve, totally focused on stopping that agonizing electric sound, ignores the fleeing pilgrims and just snaps Winston up, bites him clean in two. The source calls them sleazy pieces. Then Steve dives back into the ocean, finally free of the noise.
Jeez, okay. What about Burton, the human villain?
Burton's completely stunned by all this. The creature, the explosion, the naked pilgrims, Catfish wailing on guitar, and then news helicopters start arriving overhead.
The spider tipped them off.
Looks like it. Burton's caught. But he's not taken down by Theo, not directly. He's subdued by a dog. Gabe Fenton's Labrador, Skinner. Apparently Skinner recognizes Burton's scent, the fear, the anger, the aggression as the challenger. And he just tackles the sheriff, knocks him flat.
And Theo makes the arrest.
Seizes the moment. Officially arrests the downed Sheriff Burton, using Molly Michon's gigantic prop broadsword she carries as like a completely ridiculous but somehow fitting symbol of his newfound, albeit shaky, authority.
Wow. The conspiracy ends not with a bang, but with a Labrador and a prop sword. Unbelievable. What a climax. It's hard to even imagine what happens after something like that.
Well, the immediate fallout is surprisingly neat in some ways. Sheriff Burton's arrest sticks. The spider apparently gave the Attorney General's office a full dossier on the meth lab and the corruption. So Burton's done.
And Joseph Leander, the original murderer.
He was presumably one of the pilgrims clinging to Steve when he charged out. The sources imply he was digested, along with Winston, a grim end.
And Pine Cove itself, does the town just collapse in trauma?
Ironically, no. It settles into this new, much stranger rhythm. The sensational news stories attract tourists, but a different kind. Imported wackos, Mavis calls them. People fascinated by the bizarre events.
So weirdly, it's good for business.
For some, yeah. Mavis has to hire a second bartender at the head of the slug because suddenly profitable misery, or at least profitable weirdness, is booming again. Pine Cove syndrome becomes a strange sort of tourist attraction.
And the main players, what happens to them?
Val Riordan and Gabe Fenton, the psychiatrist and the biologist, they found this intense intellectual connection amidst the horror. They actually start a relationship committed to studying Steve's biology and psychology together, trying to understand what happened.
That makes sense. What about Catfish and Estelle?
They stay together. Estelle, the artist, finds this unexpected career path, selling her dark, moody paintings of Steve to all the new tourists. In Catfish, he finds himself in this strange position of, well, being kind of happy, fulfilled even.
The bluesman finds happiness.
Yeah. He ends up recording one last album with the perfectly ironic title, The What Do I Do Now That I'm Happy? Blues. The man hired to bring sadness is struggling for material.
And Molly Michonne, the warrior babe.
She finally gets the fame she always craved, though maybe not how she expected. Her old, cheesy horror movies get re-released, become cult classics. She's forever tied to the legend of Pine Cove, the creature, the warrior babe who communicated with a monster using a weed whacker.
And Steve, the creature itself, does it just disappear?
He retreats, goes back to the deep ocean trench where he came from. But now he's fundamentally changed. He feels that profound isolation, the heartbreak that comes with consciousness, with knowing time and loss, a direct result of his contact with Molly.
That's incredibly sad, in a way.
Yeah, the source says he resolved to just lie there in the dark until his ancient heart stopped. He knows loneliness now, but then, right at the end, he receives one last signal. A specific neurological pulse from Molly, his female, calling him back.
So it's not over. He might return.
It's left open. That connection persists. But here's the really fascinating thing to think about, and it ties this whole bizarre story together. The core of this deep dive was how Steve, the predator, evolved to exploit a human biological weakness, low serotonin depression.
Right, the elegant predator mechanism.
But through the very act of predation, specifically through that intense, intimate contact with Molly, the predator acquired the very thing it was targeting: consciousness, memory, emotion, suffering. Steve now knows the pain of later and before. He's afflicted by the melancholy he hunted.
So the hunter became haunted by the condition of the hunted. That's profound.
It raises this huge question, doesn't it? If a predator evolves to target our vulnerabilities, things like depression, which are so tied up with complex thought, imagination, our capacity for suffering, what does it mean for us, for human evolution, that the act of being preyed upon can actually transmit those complex, burdensome traits back to the predator?
It's like our deepest weaknesses, our complex emotional states are somehow contagious, crossing the species barrier through conflict and connection. Steve isn't just a monster anymore. He's a monster suffering from his own version of Pine Cove syndrome.
Exactly. It makes you wonder if imagination, complex emotion, all the things that cause us so much internal struggle aren't just quirks of human evolution, but maybe powerful communicable forces that fundamentally change any intelligence they come into contact with. Steve learned the burden of knowing too much.
That is definitely a thought to sit with. Thank you for taking this incredibly strange journey with us, deep into the world of Pine Cove syndrome. We hope you got what you needed, and maybe a few disturbing new thoughts about antidepressants, meth labs, sea monsters, and the unexpected consequences of consciousness.
We'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.